It is 2 p.m. in Los Angeles, 5 p.m. in New York City, and it is 11 p.m. in Stockholm. That means it's time for Swede Live. I am a Swede Speaks. I am back from a wonderful honeymoon. We are live on YouTube, and I'm happy that you're here. Welcome, and God bless everyone who is watching. I do this live stream most Saturdays at this time. I'm always happy to connect with you here on Saturdays. But before we begin, let's pray. Dear Lord, bless our troubled world. Bless the Americas. Bless Europe. Bless Africa. Bless Asia. And bless Australia. Give us worldwide revival in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Thank you, dear Heavenly Father, for all of the blessings that you are giving us every day. Dear Lord, it is my prayer that you bless this live stream and that you bless all the people who participate in the live stream. We pray this in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. And remember that we take prayer requests in this live stream, and we are happy to pray. So let me say just a few words about what I'm trying to do, for whom, and what I am for. I do this for you. Without you, I couldn't do this. So to everyone watching and participating, thank you. The chat is for you to connect and discuss. I am in favor of Judeo-Christian Western civilization, rooted in the heritage from Jerusalem, Athens, and Rome, and refined through Anglo-American tradition of liberty. Biblical faith, Greek philosophy, Roman law, and Anglo-American ideas on liberty. That's what I'm for. Without these ingredients, the West dies, and you're not going to like what comes after the West. It is very important, really important, to preserve Western civilization and to defend it against its enemies, whether it be socialism, political correctness, or Islam. It doesn't really matter. They are all harmful ideas that need to be stopped. And they can only be stopped by us standing up for Judeo-Christian Western civilization. So let's do just that. Remember, as I and many other people have pointed out, we don't need a majority to win. Neither does the people undermining the West. All that is needed is critical mass, the stubborn 10%. So here, I'm trying to connect with the 10 stubborn percent who are in favor of Western civilization. Please understand this. This is not about genetics or geography. This is about faith, values, culture, and ideas. Politics is downstream to culture. However, culture is downstream to religion. And that's why Western civilization could only exist in a Christian context. So if you want to support my work, feel free to do so. You can send a super chat of whatever amount you like. Just click the little dollar sign under your name. I will read out all super chats as long as you follow the general rules of this live stream. No racism, no anti-Semitism, and no incitement. Please, be nice, don't incite. And for the record, anti-Islam isn't racism, but don't incite against anyone, including Muslims, SJWs, Marxists, or whichever group you can think of. Thank you for being here. Now, let's all have a good time. So today, I want to start with Europe. A research study from 2015 shows that a third of Sunni Muslims in Sweden don't want to integrate. This study is not very known in Sweden, but it was mentioned recently on the Swedish website Ledarsidorna. And to put it like this, the Sunni Muslims prefer self-segregation over integration to stay a separate Muslim community in Sweden. The study in case was conducted on behalf of the German government, and the countries studied were Germany, France, the Netherlands, Belgium, Sweden, and Austria. The study asked Christians, Sunni Muslims, and Shia Muslims about their attitudes towards society. For instance, the study shows that more than half of the interviewed Sunni Muslims think that Jewish people are not to be trusted. And among practicing Sunni Muslims, the number is even higher, 80%. And of three statements, these were the responses among Christians and Muslims respectively. Return to the roots. 20% of Christians, 60% of first-generation Muslim immigrants, and 50% of second-generation Muslims in Europe. Only one true and binding interpretation of your religion. Somewhat less than 20% of Christians, about 75% of first-generation Muslims in Europe, and about 70% of second-generation Muslims. Religious rules are more important than secular laws. A little more than 10% of Christians, about 65% of first-generation Muslims, and almost 65% of second-generation Muslims. And people agreeing with all three statements were less than 5% of Christians, almost 50% of first-generation Muslims, and almost 40% of second-generation Muslims. Does it sound like the Muslim community in these European countries want to integrate into European culture and societies? It doesn't sound like that to me, and I think that Western Europe have trouble ahead because of this. I sincerely hope that I'm wrong, but that's what I think. So, let's have a look at America now. There's been a lot of NAFTA kerfuffle this week. I was on my honeymoon, so I didn't follow this very closely. I read up on it a little today, so it's very possible that you know more about this than I do. And feel free to let us know your insights and your thoughts on this and other things. However, it seems like US President Trump is doing what he does best, negotiates and closes deals. So he's been talking about scrapping NAFTA, and he's been talking about kicking Canada out of the deal, which actually makes a lot of sense to me from what I've seen and experienced during my stay here in the United States. Canadian producers have access to the US market, while American products are met with tariffs in Canada. For instance, Canadian bacon is everywhere in the United States. How about Wisconsin cheese in Canada? And let's have a look here. We now have 19 people, 20 people watching. That's wonderful, and that's great. So thank you all for being here, because, you know, without you, I couldn't do this. So I really depend on you, and I'm really grateful that you spend some of your valuable time participating with us in Swede Live this Saturday. And if you like this live stream, remember to click like, to share, to tell friends and family, and of course, you're more than welcome to send a super chat of any amount of your choice, or to donate through PayPal or becoming a monthly patron through Patreon. That's all greatly appreciated. And there are PayPal and Patreon links in the box under this live stream. So the general election in Sweden is getting closer. We are now in September 2018, and the election will be held on September 9th. That's 8 days from today. I will do a live stream the day before, on September 8th. I hope to be able to interview a Swedish voter or two too, right before and after the election. In any case, this Swedish general election will be the most exciting election in a very long time. Sweden is Europe's canary in the coal mine. Sweden is the most left-wing and the most Islamized country in Europe from all that I can tell. But there are a lot of Swedish voters of different backgrounds who aren't happy about this. These people are native-born Swedes, and they are first and second generation immigrants, including immigrants of Middle Eastern background, usually of Christian or Persian background. They are previous social democrats, and they are previous moderates. The political force that unites most of them is the Sweden Democrats. And a Swedish political commentator, Marcus Oskarsson, who himself most likely isn't a Sweden Democrat, recently wrote, "The Sweden Democrats have put the champagne on cooling for the victory party after the election of September 9th. And I believe anything more than 23% of the votes will make them open up the champagne bottles. And I believe the Sweden Democrats will get at least 25% of the votes." I think that's a moderate estimation. It could be a lot more, but my guess for now is 25% or more. And also in Norway, the Progress Party, which is one of the three parties in the Norwegian government, will choose its new vice chairperson on September 3rd, 2 days from now. It's very likely that Sylvi Listhaug will be elected vice chairperson of that party. And as some of you might remember, Sylvi Listhaug is the hardliner who was more or less forced to leave the Norwegian government a few months ago. If she makes a comeback as vice chairperson of the Progress Party, things could get very interesting in Norway. Also, I have recently learned that the new Prime Minister of Australia, Scott Morrison, is a great friend of Israel. Mr. Morrison is an evangelical Pentecostal, so may God bless Scott Morrison. God bless Australia, God bless Israel, and may the Lord give Jerusalem peace. I believe that Australia will be blessed by having a Prime Minister who is friendly to the State of Israel. And now we have 18 people in here. So that's great. Thank you all for joining us for my first live stream in 2 weeks. The first live stream after my honeymoon with my beautiful wife. And thank you for being here. Thank you for participating. Thank you for supporting this channel in any possible ways. And remember, like, subscribe, share, comment, and super chats. That's all very good. Also, just in, I heard that South Africa is is backtracking on their land grab law, that they are not going to take away any farms now. That, I mean, I just heard it, so I don't know the details. But isn't that great? And I'll have a look at the chat and see what's going on. So I see we have a few old timers here. Sheldon Hofstadter says hello to you too. And David Norton says evening to all, no, evening to you too. Homer Talk says Islam is evil. Yeah, I agree. And Homer Talk also says happy life with your new wife. Well, yeah, that's a rhyme, a good rhyme. Thank you very much. Alicia Bell says, well, South Africa has removed the law, but they are still grabbing land. Oh, that's really unfortunate. I hope to just stop that land grabbing, because socialism doesn't work. Doesn't matter if you try it in the Soviet, well, it doesn't matter if you try it in Russia, in Venezuela, in Cuba, or in South Africa. It always fails. And the cost of these experiments is always human misery, starvation, murder, indoctrination. I could go on forever. Kevin Gallagher says, you said the Sweden Democrats will get 25% of the vote. Haven't the other parties said that they will keep them out even if they get that? Even if they do get that? Yes, they have. In short, they have. However, the larger the Sweden Democrats get, the more tempting it will be for other parties to start working with them. There is a point where, because if you look at the opposition parties in Sweden, the alliance parties, the moderates, the Liberal Party, the Center Party, and the Christian Democrats, they are not very friendly with each other. They have an ideological divide between them. You have a liberal fraction, which would be the Center Party and the Liberal Party. And then you have a somewhat conservative fraction, which would be the moderates and the Christian Democrats, especially the Christian Democrats. But those two parties are both divided. But if any of them would turn more conservative and start talking with the Sweden Democrats, they could really shake up things in Sweden. And the larger the Sweden Democrats get, the more likely this is going to happen. You know that in Denmark, a few generations ago, a few decades ago, you had the Danish People's Party, which no one was talking to, and they were pretty much like the Sweden Democrats, but they kept on growing, and they got to the point where the other parties started talking to them, and once they did, Danish politics changed for the better, in my humble opinion. And that could happen in Sweden too. It seems like it's more difficult to get that through in Sweden, since Sweden is more conformist than Denmark. But at some point, it will be too tempting, or they still have growth potential. So they can't keep them out forever. David Wyborski says, Swede, why are you wearing an American flag, not Swedish flag? Well, David, as of right now, my office is in the United States, and I like to honor this country. So that's why I have an American flag behind me. Alicia Bell says, racism is racism. Those leftist racists South Africa are heading down the Venezuela road. Yeah, absolutely. And that's sad, because there's no need for them to do that. They could ask Botswana to take over their country if they don't know how to handle a country. Botswana is a good counterexample to South Africa and to Zimbabwe, because they are heading in the right direction. They went from a third world country to a middle-income country in one generation. And they are also a church-going nation. So South Africa could learn from Botswana, or they could even learn from Tanzania. Was it Tanzania? Yeah, I think it was Tanzania, who implemented free market policies and wiped out poverty almost completely in a few years. David Wyborski says, are you a refugee from Sweden? Well, I don't want to call myself a refugee, but I guess you could say I'm kind of a dissident. So, did you hear about this? Prague University got in trouble with Facebook for a video saying masculine men were good. Facebook called the video hate speech. Do you agree? Do you think that a video stating that masculine men are good, do you think that is hate speech? The way I see it, hate speech is used as a code word. And I mean, it's really a code word used to silence speech. And sure, you could say that there is hate speech, but you can't make it a legal category. I mean, there are a lot of statements I don't like. I still think that people should be allowed to make these statements, not necessarily in the chat of this live stream, but that's different because the live stream is pretty much, well, it's a place to hang out and have a good civilized discussion. But I don't think the government or large corporations should start policing speech. That's just stupid. Let's see. Homer Talk says hate speech is the only free speech. Well, in one way you could say that, because anyone's speech can be someone else's hate speech. I mean, things I say about socialism or Islam will be considered hate speech by people who adhere to these ideas, or by some of those people at least. Amanda Smallman says, don't talk to me about Facebook. I'm banned for 30 days. Yeah, that happens a lot. It seems to me like it happens a lot to Europeans. I have some friends in Europe who get kicked out every now and then, and they're gone for a month at a time. And some of them are just in for a few days and they're gone again. I haven't seen this happen to Americans, so I wonder if Facebook is, well, if they are imposing stricter policies on Europeans. I don't know. David Wyborski says, Americans are lucky they got freedom of speech in Constitution. Well, as Alicia Bell says, not lucky, we fought for that. Yeah, well, yeah, Americans fought for all their rights. And that's pretty much what you have to do. You have to stand up for what's right, even if it's, or especially when it's dangerous. Sheldon Hofstadter says, masculine men and feminine women are the best. Oh, I agree 100%. Also, both Peter Sweden and Dr. Stephen Turley think that the Sweden Democrats might win the election in Sweden. If the Sweden Democrats come into power, what should their first actions be to save Sweden? So several people, including Peter Sweden and Dr. Stephen Turley, they think that the Sweden Democrats might win the Swedish election next week. And what should the Sweden Democrats' first actions be to save Sweden? What's your opinion on that? Homer Talk says, and Second Amendment. That's a very good point. Without the Second Amendment, the First Amendment wouldn't survive. The Second Amendment protects all the other amendments. And I think everyone already knows this. But if there's anyone here who are new to the chat, who are new to the channel, or who just doesn't know, the Second Amendment is the amendment that allows American citizens to own and carry arms. And, well, unarmed people will be able to protect themselves, both against invaders and against enemies, foreign and domestic, to put it that way. Homer Talk says Sweden can't be saved. I hope you're wrong. I mean, I really hope you're wrong. I'll give you this one. It's going to be extremely difficult, but I hope that you're wrong. Art Schneider says, hi Sweden all. I saw something about Zuckerberg and Merkel talking about monitoring Facebook to help her. Oh, that's crazy. I mean, I'm sure they did talk about that, but it's crazy that they did. If they did, I mean, that's really awful, but not surprising at all. Sometimes, or actually often, I think, I wish I would be surprised. I wish I would get surprised sometimes when it comes to politics. Lisa Leto says, enforce current laws equally. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. And Mr. Strontium says, I just saw a video of the Alternative for Sweden candidate getting attacked by migrants. Okay, I haven't seen that, but whatever you think of a specific candidate or a specific party, attacking them physically, because I suppose that's what you mean, or I assume that's what you mean. A physical attack on any candidate is just going to help that candidate. So let's say you don't like Alternative for Sweden. Let them have their meeting. As long as they have a peaceful meeting and don't attack people, let them have their meeting and let them have their talk. As long as they're not inciting, let them have their meeting. If you attack someone, that's just going to help them. If your goal is to stop Alternative for Sweden. All of this has already been tried on the Sweden Democrats, and the Sweden Democrats have been doubling their numbers for every generation, or for every election since 2006. I wouldn't say that they're going to double their numbers in this election, but they might. That's actually pretty possible. I think they got 12% in the election 2014, and my assumption is 25% or more. So we'll see. Mr. Strontium says it was horrible. Fortunately, the police intervened. Well, that's good. Amanda Smallman says, what the Swedes should do is stop immigration, revoke citizenship for criminals, and anyone with dual nationality, make them have one or the other. Turkey don't allow it. Well, I pretty much agree. I don't necessarily want to stop all immigration. I think some immigration is beneficial, but you need to vet the people coming to your country. You can't just have an open border, everyone can come in. And you actually have to discriminate between countries. Canadian immigrants in Sweden is not a problem. Afghan immigrants in Sweden is a much larger problem. And of course, not all Afghans are bad. I mean, I wouldn't say anything like that. You know this already. But certain ideologies, certain religions, and certain cultures will have a harder time assimilating into Sweden than others. Democided Softly says, hello, I'm late. Well, hello to you too, and welcome. Alicia Bell says, wasn't this the second attack on Alternative for Sweden in a few days? I haven't heard about that, but if anyone knows about this, please let us know. Democided Softly says, Alicia, someone was shot at Sunday when they were driving. Was this in Sweden, or what are you referring to here, Democided Softly? Elf25 says, hello. Well, hello to you too, and welcome here. So, I've been gone for 2 weeks, and the last thing I uploaded on this channel was a comment on the Swedish election system a little more than a week ago. So it's good to be back and good to connect with you all again. So I'm really happy to see you in here. I almost said y'all. I've been in the US for a while, so yeah, I kind of like that phrase. But anyway, Democided Softly says, yes, an AFS member. Oh, I see. Yeah, Alternative for Sweden. Yeah, that's that's really bad. Because, as I said, if you don't like someone's politics, you can argue against them, or you can just leave them and their meeting alone. However, attacking people, if it's a meeting or if it's a person, that's not a good idea. That's a really bad idea. And of course, the police should stop any of those, any attacks of that kind. Tracy Wallace says, "Evening to all." Well, good evening to you too. Right Pro HD says, "A car with 2 kids was shot in central Oslo some days ago." Oh, that's horrible. I have to read up on my sources on Norway. I've been away for a while. I was on a honeymoon, so I haven't been able to check so much what has been going on in the last week. But well, thank you for letting us know, and I'll see if any of the Norwegian news that I follow, if they mention this story. Joe Anonymous says, "Hi Swede, do you think the Sweden Democrats will actually advance a nationalist agenda, or are they like rhinos, Republicans in name only in the USA?" And he also says, "Congrats on your honeymoon." Thank you very much. Well, Joe, I think that some Sweden Democrats are more hardliners, while they of course have others who will be, how should I put it, softer. And also, I think the Sweden Democrats, they are sort of a conglomerate party or a mixed party, because they have been getting influx from both the left and the right. They sort of combine people who used to be social democrats with people who used to be moderates, people who realize that you cannot have both a welfare state and open borders. And both social democrats and moderates of the classical kind are going to agree on this. Then they might disagree on a lot of other things, but hopefully I hope they will advance. We could call it a nationalist agenda, in the way that they are going to, well, I hope they're going to put Sweden first, the way Trump is putting America first. Although Sweden first in Sweden, that would be an interesting campaign slogan. I wish they would pick that one up. Alicia Bell says, "In Lambertsäter, right Pro HD." Oh, I know where that is. I kind of lived there a few years ago. And that's actually that area is actually more or less a middle class to upper middle class neighborhood. It's, as far as I know, that's not a troubled neighborhood at all. But you know, these things can happen anywhere. Elf25 says, getting a bit of topic, but you did ask it before what Sweden could do to solve its current immigrant problem, and you did ask it before. So may I make a suggestion and possibly a long-term solution? Sure. Yeah, just don't incite or anything like that, and we're all good. I'm happy to hear your ideas. So we got 8 days left to the election, and I would I'm going to live stream the day before the election. On the day of the election, I probably won't do much at all. I guess I'll watch the Swedish news or something like that. And maybe I'll watch the Danish news too and things like that to compare them and see what they all say. But I'll probably wait with any comments until a few days after the election. I might be meeting with some Swedish voters, and I might be able to interview some of them on their thoughts on the election. We'll see. Tracy Wallace says, "I hope everything will go well on the 9th. I hope so too." And Alicia Bell says, personally, I would want to eliminate all no-go zones. Yes, I would want that too. And that means that the Swedish police needs to take control of every area in Sweden, which means they have to send in the police in the no-go areas, and they need to stop accepting crime, pretty much. I mean, Sweden needs Rudy Giuliani or someone with his policies, the way he cleaned up New York City. Elf25 says, maybe a bit radical, but it does have common sense. As you had mentioned Poland before in this example, but it will be dependent on Sweden taking his country back. Well, I can agree with that statement. Alicia Bell says, I would do this by stripping any legal status in Sweden and immediate deportation of anyone who attacks the police. Well, yeah, really, because attacking the police isn't just attacking an individual police officer, it's attacking the country that is housing you and feeding, in most cases, feeding you. And if you're, I mean, why should you be allowed to stay in a country that you're attacking? That doesn't make any sense. Joe Anonymous says, how is Alternative for Sweden polling? Do you expect Alternative for Sweden to get into parliament? They're polling. I think they're still left in the other parties category, together with parties like Citizens Coalition, Medborgerlig Samling, and some other parties. And other parties are something between 2 and 5% in the polls from what I've seen together. I don't think any individual party outside of the 8 parties already in parliament will get over the 4% mark that you need to get into parliament. I could be wrong, though. I don't expect the Alternative for Sweden to get into parliament in this election. Maybe in next. I don't know. Democided Softly says, they're free to segregate in their own country. Yeah, and by the way, countries that are dominated by Islam really aren't tolerant countries at all. You don't want to be a Christian or any kind of minority in a Muslim-dominated country. So there's kind of a double standard going on here. And we've been on here for a little more than half an hour now. So that's great. And we got 30 people watching. That's good. So thank you all for being here. Homer Talk says Islam is evil. Yeah, I agree. I think certain ideas, certain ideologies are evil. I count Islam as one of them. Socialism is another. They're just evil. And I mean, that doesn't mean every single Muslim is an evil person, but it means the ideology is evil. Not every single socialist is evil either, but socialism in itself is evil. So I agree with you on that. So in recent news, I'll wait with that for a moment and look at this. Alicia Bell says, I'm noting that in the media, Alternative for Sweden is being equating with the Sweden Democrats. Is that fair? I don't really think that's fair, because I think the differences are too big. The Alternative for Sweden pretty much consists of people who were kicked out of the Sweden Democrats. That's pretty much their core founders. And for instance, you have their opinions on Israel. That's one thing. The founder was kicked out over a conflict on Israel and Palestine with the leadership, and there was also a conflict over leadership of the youth federation of the party. There was a lot of stuff going on. Some people say that Alternative for Sweden are more radical, and I guess you could say they're more radical. Well, in the true sense of the word radical, and I mean, I'm not a radical in that way, so I'm going to root for the Sweden Democrats when it comes to these two parties. I don't vote in Sweden because I'm no longer a Swedish citizen, so I don't really need to decide who I would vote for. I think the Sweden Democrats are too leftist when it comes to, well, what do you call it, financial issues, with the welfare states and things like that. But I do agree with their analysis that you can't have both a welfare state and open borders, and I agree with them when they say that that Islam is a threat to Sweden or a threat to the West. But when it comes to Sweden in specific, I agree with them on that. And I also know that some Sweden Democrat politicians pretty much sound like me. I was listening to an interview with Sweden Democrat politician, what's his name, Mattias Kinnunen, and he pretty much said that he likes Thatcher and he wants free trade and the free market and all the things that I'm going to agree with. He just doesn't like Islamization. And I'm like, that's pretty much where you got me. Casper Nielsen says, great channel, by the way. Greetings from Denmark. Well, greetings to you too. I hope to visit your country in a not too distant future. Well, in one way, I hope to do that. In another way, well, if I'm going to the Nordic countries, Denmark is a good place to be. Let me put it like that. Let's see. Oh, Casper Nielsen also said, a question. How much are the political parties getting influenced by Muslim politicians? I think especially party to the left. The Green Party and the Social Democrats have a large number of Muslims among their politicians, and they've kind of been taken over in part by Muslims. The Center Party, who supposedly is a right-wing party, they also have this problem, or they've also been subverted. I do actually think not so much the left party, although they cling on to the left party cling on to an idealized version of multiculturalism that they think is going to work, but it won't, of course. But anyway, not to digress. But I think especially the Social Democrats, the Green Party, and the Center Party, they have been pretty much subverted. I'd say the only party in the Swedish parliament that doesn't have any Muslim influence at all in the party is the Sweden Democrats. They have some politicians who are of Persian background, but as far as I know, none of them are practicing Muslims. You have this Iranian guy in Malmö who is a Sweden Democrat politician, and I follow him on Facebook, and he's pretty anti-Islam as far as I can tell. Lisa Leto says, I'm reading Sean Spicer's new book. Okay, I didn't know he just published a book. I missed that news. Alexander Westner says, hello from Canada. Oh, hello to you too. How's everything in Canada? Also recently, John McCain died. What did you think when you found out about that? And please watch your language. But as I said, John McCain recently died. And what did you think when you found out that he died? And again, just please watch your language. Marian8067 says, hello from France. Well, hello to you too. And Mary Fuller says, Hans, say hello from the USA. Okay, well, hello. Hello to you too. Geraldo Jose Vivarelli Curti says, hello from Brazil. Oh, yeah, hello to Brazil. And maybe you could give us some insight on what's going on in Brazil. I hear that Brazil has been going very, very left-wing, but at the same time, you have a candidate who is pushing hard back against that, and that you sort of have a Brazilian Trump who might win the next election. Is that true? Brian Daigle says, Are there pro-Christian politicians in Sweden? There are a few. You won't find them in the parties in parliament, at least not among the parliamentarians. But you could find them in smaller parties. For instance, there's a party called, let's see, Kristna Värdepartiet, the Party of Christian Values or something like that. So you can find a few, but really, Sweden needs a lot of prayer. And as I said before, and I'll say it again, if anyone has any prayer requests, you can always come with them in this chat, and we'll pray. Geraldo Jose Vivarelli Curtis says, yes, Bolsonaro is our Trump. I hope that Bolsonaro does a good elect. From what I can see, I hope so. I haven't looked into all the nitty-gritty. I haven't done that. Narcissistic dog Wolf Wolf says the Muslims sleep better now when McCain is dead. You might be right about that one. I don't want to say anything bad about dead people who just died, but let me put it like this: McCain wasn't my favorite politician. Joe Anonymous says, just Google the world population of Jewish people, only 20 million. Does this sound correct? It sounds pretty correct as far as I know. I mean, I'm not counting the lost tribes. We don't know what happened to them. There are some interesting fears out there, but, well, I won't go there right now. Alexander Westner says, our media said 8 years ago he, McCain, was a warmonger, and now the same networks say he's a saint. I'm sure they do, Alexander Westner. And I think they probably think of McCain as a saint now because he was a never-Trumper. I mean, that would be my best guess. Alleluia says, good evening to all. Good evening to you too. And Alicia Bell says, yes, and Jewish people have been a boon to the USA. Well, I'll have to agree with that. Enlightened Trout says, I'm from Lebanon. Criminals from my own tiny little country in the Middle East were at the top of murder-related crimes list in Germany in 2015. Oh, I didn't know about Lebanon specifically, or Lebanese immigrants. Have they broken down the statistics to show whether these Lebanese immigrants were from a Christian or a Muslim background? Because that could be interesting too. Because Lebanon really was a shining example in the Middle East before it was more or less Islamized. Beirut was the Paris of the East. So what has happened to Lebanon is really sad, and is also something we could all learn from. Because, I mean, Lebanon was a Christian country, and they opened up their borders to their neighbors, to Muslims, because they felt, as far as I understand, they felt bad for them because they were living in dysfunctional states. And what happened when these people flooded into Lebanon? Well, Lebanon broke down too. And I actually think that Sweden could go down the same path as Lebanon, and I really don't want to see that happen. And I would like a Christian state in the Middle East. Lebanon could be such a state. But in any case, I don't like the Middle East to be completely freed of Christian influence. The Middle East and North Africa, they were Christian civilizations long before they were Islamized, and they were high cultures. So it's about ideas, and Islam is just a really bad idea. And I'll also read this. Alicia Bell says, Jewish conspiracy theories have been promoted by people who hate Christians and Jews since the year zero. That's correct. And yeah, no anti-Semitism is the rule here. That's That's what it is. And if you don't like that, you could go elsewhere. Enlightened Trout says, well, no, they didn't do that about the Christian-Muslim percentages. However, you could clearly see in that report the flags shown next to the charts. Okay, that sounds very interesting. Elf25 says, Lebanon was tragic, and I see too many parallels today. Yeah, I do too. I used to say that the left should learn from Iran, because the left and Islamists or Muslims, whatever you want to call it, teamed up in Iran to depose the Shah. Once that was done, Muslims attacked the left, and they hanged the communists or the left. Where is the Iranian left today? They live in California or in Sweden. And Lebanon, you had Christian compassion, and Christian compassion is a good thing, but you need to have your mind working too. You can't just go, we're going to open up our borders for people because we feel sorry for them, without asking, how did these people end up in this situation? Maybe we should help them at home instead of making our country turn into the dysfunctional state they are leaving. And that's what a lot of European Christians, or at least Western European Christians, really should learn from, just like the left should learn from Iran. Art Schneider says, the YouTube channel 160 Wooly has a great video from Brigitte Gabriel telling about Lebanon. I've seen her talks on Lebanon on different channels. So I've heard her story, and as far as I can tell, she's accurate. Well, I mean, she's a Christian Lebanese, so she knows what was going on. Casper Nielsen says, is there a Tommy Robinson kind of guy in Sweden, who exposes the crimes committed by Muslims and the negative impact that comes with multiculturalism? I don't think there is a Tommy Robinson in Sweden. You have people exposing this in different ways. Tommy Robinson is more of an activist than anyone I've seen in Sweden that I can think of. But of course you have people in Sweden talking about what's going on. Although, of course, that's not very popular. Tracy Vola says, I think that if you go to someone else's country, then you should respect his culture. Absolutely. And there's a reason I won't go to countries if I don't like them. Or, well, let me put it like this. There are some countries I won't go to because I just disagree too much with their culture. Some countries I will go to and will keep a low profile, and I won't criticize their culture in public. But there are certain places I just won't go. I wouldn't want to go to Dubai, for instance. I don't understand Westerners who go to Dubai for holiday and then they get in all kinds of troubles. Why do you want to go there? I wouldn't do that. It's Cal says, why does a Swede have the US flag posted on his wall? Well, because right now my office is in the US, and it happens to be the greatest country in the world. So that's why. Also, I started watching Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan on Amazon recently. How do you feel about their portrayal of the French as either threatened by their American allies or as bigots? So what I recently started doing, I recently started watching Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan on Amazon, and I wonder, how do you feel about their portrayal of the French as either threatened by their American allies or as bigots? Enlightened Trout says people in the West are no longer capable of identifying threats to their very values and principles they claim they believe in and stand for. I think you're pretty much right about that. And I think the reason for this is, well, I think socialism or leftism, they paved the way for Islam. Because what happened, let's take Sweden as an example. In Sweden, when leftism really took its hold over the country, because even though the Social Democrats were in power pretty much from 1932 and onwards, they were somewhat sane until 1969. In 1969, the prime minister they had, he left office and he was replaced with the then younger Olof Palme. And Palme was really from the upper class. He was an ideologue, and he was ideological more than anything else. He hadn't actually lived any of his ideas. He was just a true believer in socialism. And after that, the country started going downwards. And one of the things he did, because before he became prime minister, he was Minister of Education. And he cut down on the history subject in Swedish schools. And, well, if you don't know where you're coming from, if you don't know which ideas that shaped your country or your culture, then you don't even know who you are. And how can you defend something when you don't know what it is? And that's a problem. Even when it comes to many Sweden Democrats, when they are asked specific questions, so what is Swedish culture? Many of them can't reply to that because they don't really know. They just know that they don't like what's going on. And I agree. I don't like it either. But they have a problem because many of them aren't very well read on history. You have people in the Sweden Democrats who are well read on history too, to use them as an example. But of course, you also have people who they go by their gut feeling, telling them that this is not what Sweden should be. And I agree with them on that. But they have a problem explaining what Sweden should be. So, could I ask you, Enlightened Trout, what kind of background do you have more than Lebanese? Mary Fuller says, Sweden is the canary in the coal mine. Yeah. As of today, I think it is. Enlightened Trout says, well, myself, I am not an Arab. I'm an Armenian. Oh, I see. Yeah, well, if you're an Armenian, the Armenians, well, you're one of the oldest Christian communities in the world. And, well, what happened to the Armenians, the Armenian genocide was just horrible. Enlightened Trout says, my grandparents ended up in the Middle East because of the genocide. Yeah. Oh, well, I see. Well, it's good that they got out at least. I'm sorry that Lebanon went down the path it did. I'm sorry that Turkey did too, and that Turkey seems to be going even further into that route now. So I've been gone for a while now. So what did you do this summer? So, I've been gone for 2 weeks pretty much. So I would like to ask you, what did you do this summer? And we have 34 people watching, and I think that's pretty good actually. That's great. And we've got people from the United States, we got people from Canada, we got people from Germany, people from Denmark. I don't know if we have any Swedes in here right now, but well, we got me, of course. But we got a lot of people from different parts of the world, and that's great. And Tracy Wallace says Wales. Oh, so you're from Wales. Oh, or did you go to Wales? Maybe both. Amanda Smallman says UK. Yeah, Wales is one of these places I would like to go one day. But as I've said before, I'm avoiding the UK for now until the UK becomes a free country again. I really hope you do, because I don't want to end up in any UK detention at some airport. And that might sound a little paranoid. This channel isn't that large yet, but it's growing, and thank you all for that. Thank you very much for the growth, because without you, I wouldn't have been able to grow. So feel free to share this channel with more people. That's greatly appreciated. And thank you for all your help. Casper Nielsen says festivals and enjoying the nice weather. Yeah, how has the weather been in Denmark? I was in Denmark in June for a few days, and after that I haven't been to any country in Europe since then. But as I said, I hope I'll be in Denmark on my next European stay. Tracy Wallace says, I know it's scary what's going on in the UK at the moment. I agree. I'll give you all my moral support and I'll highlight what's going on. But I don't want to end up in a detention center. That's pretty much the way I see it. Alicia Bell says, sounds like a lot of fun. I traveled a lot and went to a water park. That sounds good. That sounds like a good way to spend your summer. Alexander Westner says, Peru is awesome. Oh, okay. Maybe I should go there one day. I haven't heard much about Peru for a long time, so maybe Peru is good. And you should, of course, all read Alicia Bell's message and respond to what she says in it. And Lighton Trout says, why would you end up in a detention center? Maybe detention center isn't the right word, but, well, you have these people who have been stopped at airports in the UK. Lauren Southern, Martin Sellner, Brittany Pettibone, people who are, well, not politically correct. And I don't necessarily agree with all of their statements. That's not the point. The point is there's no freedom of speech in the UK, and they are giving their authorities liberties. That means I don't want to risk being stopped at an airport in the UK and getting into that kind of trouble. I can go to Ireland, but the UK is pretty much off guard for me as of right now. I was in the UK in April, and that was great. I mean, of course, I would want Britain to become a free country again. Really, I mean, what happened with the Magna Carta barons, so to speak? And Lighton Trout says, so it's the classic thing. Politically incorrect targets, yeah, exactly. Raldo Jose Vivarelli Curtis says, your thoughts on the Skripal case? To be honest, I don't know what the Skripal case is, but feel free to inform us. Alexander Westner says, it's just amazing. Makes you question all of what we were taught in school about history. Well, I don't know what history they taught you in Canada, so I can't comment on that. I could tell you that most of the history I know, I didn't learn that in school. I just happened to be a history geek, so I've been reading up on some of that stuff on my own. John Mitchell says Ireland is being aggressively replaced. You don't need to visit quickly. Yeah, I heard about that, but I haven't heard of Ireland. Well, putting people in detention for disagreeing. Maybe I missed that story. I don't know, but I haven't heard of anything like that happening on airports in Ireland. Alicia Bell says, okay, the chat has been on for an hour, so we only have around 15 or 20 minutes left. Yeah, that's true. So now is as good time as any if you want to support my work, if you want to support this channel, and if you want to make sure I can keep on live streaming on Saturdays and to produce all these videos and comments, feel free to send a donation. This is a good time as any. Yeah, it's a good time to send a donation if you want to do that. And a few hours ago, I saw a video that was published on RT's YouTube page with a woman in Germany named Lene Kröch. And she says that there are almost no German speakers in her son's daycare in the town of Essen in Germany. So the story is that this lady in Germany, Lene Kröch, she says that there are almost no German speakers at all in her son's daycare in Essen, Germany. So did you hear about this? Or if you are from Germany or have a knowledge of Germany, do you know anything about this? Do you have any comments to that? Joe Anonymous says, Skripal case, the poison in England that they are blaming Russia for. Oh, that case. Yeah, my first instinct when people started talking about how it wasn't the Russians, but instead it was the British government or something like that, I thought, no, that's too much conspiracy for me. But the more I've been looking into what's going on in Britain, the more I'm like, I don't know, because you can't trust Britain either. So I'm undecided on that one. It could go either way. John Mitchell says, hate crimes are being proposed. Abortion on demand is part of the process of replacement migration. Oh, you're talking about Ireland. Yeah, I heard it. Yeah, abortion on demand. It went through in Ireland last year or something. And I think it's horrible. So, yeah, Ireland is going down on the wrong way, but I hope they turn around fast. Let's see. Alexander Westner says, take care. Good to be part of your show. Thank you. Well, thank you for your kind words. Raldo Jose Vivarella Curtis says, I misspelled. Skripal is the former Russian agent supposedly poisoned by Russians in London this year. Yeah, I remember that case. And what I can say, I don't know. I mean, I don't trust Russia. I don't trust Britain either. So I don't know who did it. Enlightened Trout says, for example, you have people who want to let them in the name of human rights and freedom of religion, when Muslims themselves are against freedom of religion. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's what the left won't get this, and post-Christian Westerners have a problem getting this, because Western people who are not Christians or not Jewish don't understand how strong a force faith or religion is. They don't understand that some people actually hold on to their beliefs and what people are willing to do for their beliefs. You would think that the Marxists would understand this because of their loyalty to Marxist principle, but a lot of Marxists thinks that everyone is going to become a Marxist once they see how wonderful Marxism is, in their minds, of course. Because I think their idea is that Muslims are just happen to be an oppressed group, and they hold on to their beliefs because that's, their idea is that religion is the opium of the people. So they think that if they're nice to Muslims and if they include them in their movements and so on, they're going to turn into atheist Marxists instead. But they could just study Iran, as we said before. They could just study Iran to see that's not the way it works. And Alicia Bell says, your last 10 minutes, folks. Exactly. So just bear that in mind. And she also says, please click on the like button. Be nice. Don't incite. No racism or anti-Semitism. Be a superhero to the channel and send a super chat. Yeah, that'd be good. We'd really appreciate that. Enlightened Trout says, well, I've had many chats on that with different people, and the conclusion I came to is that Ukrainians are full of Swiss cheese. All they do is yell racist at you. Yeah, my problem with it is this. If everything is racism, if everyone is a racist, what are you going to do when the real Nazis show up? Because they already devaluated the word racist, so it doesn't have a meaning anymore. And I mean, make no mistake about that. I hate racism. But if you think that it's racist to be against Islam, well, okay. Let's say it is. But in that case, if you're against communism, are you then racist to Cuban people or Venezuelans or Chinese or Russians? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. An idea is just that. It's an idea. It can be a good idea or a bad idea. But an idea is not genetic. So, I mean, yeah. So I agree. That's pretty much, yeah, that's Swiss cheese. You could call it that. So we have a few minutes left here. And let me just give a shout out to all the people in here. Thank you for showing up here today, for being in the live stream, for being in the chat, and because I couldn't do this without you. So I really depend on your support and your input. Because it wouldn't be very fun for me to just talk into a camera with no one to interact with. So thank you for being here. Casper Nielsen says, if you want citizenship in Denmark, you are forced to shake hands. New legislation proposed by Inger Støjberg. Oh, she's actually one of my favorites in Denmark. So I hope that legislation goes through. Anderson says, socialism creates racism. You're absolutely right on that one. In theory, socialism is international, but in practice, it's not just nationalist. Nationalist in itself isn't bad, depending on how you use the word. In an American context, you would say patriot instead. But let's call it ethno-chauvinism or something like that, because that's where socialism always goes. It doesn't matter if it's in Germany or in Russia or in China or in South Africa or any other place in the world. That always seems to happen. In theory, socialism is going to make everyone happy and everyone's going to live in some kind of harmony. In practice, you get groups fighting each other over resources. And of course, under socialism, these resources are not growing. So, yeah, that's pretty much what happens. Tracy Wallace says, enjoyed your live chat. Well, thank you for that. I'm happy to hear that. Ronaldo Jose Vivarelli Curtis says, if you decide to come to Brazil, come to my farm in Tambao, São Paulo State. Oh, Sao Paulo, yeah. Well, okay, thank you for the invitation. Maybe I'll take you up on that one day. St. Joseph Farm. Okay, good to know. Thank you. Maybe I will go to Brazil one day. So we got 27 people in here right now. It's about time to wrap this up. So thank you for your support, for your comments, for participation. Please tell your friends and family about this live stream and this channel, because this channel has surpassed 5,000 subscribers, and that's great. Thank you for all your help for us to get so far. And I still want your help to keep on growing. So tell everyone you think would be interested and who would enjoy the videos on this channel, the live streams on this channel. Just please let them all know. And until next time, have a nice day, or evening, or morning, depending on where in the world you happen to be right now. And God bless.